Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing well wherever you are. Today we're going to be having a career informational video with Salome, who's going to be giving us her insights in the career that she works in. My name is Hailey Gabrielle Loves McDonald, and I will be your host for today. Hello, Salome.
Hey, how are you?
Doing great. I'm doing great. I hope you're having a beautiful morning. So let's just hop into the questions. First one, can you tell me a little bit about your background and what your career path looked like?
Yeah, so born and raised in Los Angeles. Always someone who appreciated school or the writing part of school. Was never really good at math. So I like to call myself an accidental banker because I currently work in finance. I am a
Oh,
performance consultant for US Bank,
mhm.
and been with them for the last 14 years. So while I was in school, I started as a teller, accidentally just was trying to make some money and ended up staying around. So as I grew, the company grew and I grew with them. So it's been some time, but definitely appreciate the job because I'm in a position where I get to come across a lot of different people, do a lot of different things like this. So yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the skill set that you need for your job? Because I know that you're into writing, but then you fell into this, and now you're in this big position. So what is it that students need to know how to do and how to do well?
So I think it's kind of progressionary. So definitely writing skills, communication skills are important because we facilitate meetings, conference calls, Zoom meetings like this now that we're doing everything virtual and I've been working remotely. Kind of knowing how to connect to people on an intimate level because in my profession I go in and I assess the branch performance, working with the branch managers to figure out how we can make their offices more profitable, how can they be better leaders in the job that they're doing, assisting them in their growth and development. So I think it's really important that you can communicate well and actually grow from the people that you're learning from too, because you can take those circumstances and use them in the next experience. And obviously you're sending a lot of emails. We're working with senior leadership, sometimes the CEO of the company, depending on what we're doing. So it's really important that you have the ability to speak well, but also at the same time be yourself because people don't appreciate when you're really not real. And that's one of the things that I do enjoy about this company is that they leave a space for your individuality. So, but obviously being respectful, but also giving opportunity to be yourself. So.
I mean, that's fantastic info. Thank you. I wanted to ask a few questions about the details. I know
Okay.
that you work you basically work with a bunch of banks, and I want to know what type of offices, what type of branches that you work with, and how that happens.
So I only work with US Bank, but we do have two different types of bank. You kind of hit the nail on the head there. So we have traditional, which are all of the retail banks that you see. So the ones that sit on a street. And then we have in-store, which are the ones that are in supermarkets or on sites where they might be in colleges. We don't have any in my market. So I run about how many total? Probably about 56 US banks. So any of the ones that you see in the Los Angeles area are my offices. And any of the ones that you see in the supermarkets are my offices. So it's not that we treat them any differently. It's just the clientele that we might be dealing with could be different. But the personnel are the same. The things that they need to know, how they need to lead are all the same. But the way in which they learn and receive that information could be different. So, kind of back to your previous question, you have to be able to be a chameleon and adjust yourself to the needs of the people that you're working with. You can't cookie cutter everything that you're doing. That doesn't make sense either. And people that know me well know that I like to color outside the lines. There's always a gray area to things, which is, I think, important in any company or business because it's not all customers are cookie cutter. So, how you address and deal with them are different. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I also wanted to ask how you think your major and the skills that you learned with that major apply to your job now?
So I was or am a communications major. So I got my undergrad and my master's degree in communication studies. So, but I think that a lot of people make fun because they think athletes are the ones that always get the communication major when they're in school. And they think that it applies to everything. But communication studies is about understanding the foundations of how and why we communicate the way that we do. So it's really not that it isn't relevant, but what you learn, it takes all facets of psychology, a business, or so many different elements that fall into that major. But I appreciated it because I wanted to understand the basis of communication. So you learn about the FOSSIS and linguistics and all of those things. I appreciate writing, as you mentioned earlier. So it's definitely relevant, but I think the skills that are necessary for my job come with experience. The thing about finance is that you could have a degree in pretty much anything and still be successful in the job because you take your previous experience and apply it to what you're doing now. As long as you're learning, obviously, but the foundations, your writing skills, those things pretty much applied, but you can gain that experience in previous job roles. My cash handling experience I learned from a previous job. So I think in the end of the day, it's really what you put forward. And I tell everybody that I work with, you want to do the job you want, not the job you have. And you can take that from anything. It doesn't have to be just from school per se, although it helps.
I also wanted to ask if there were any elements specifically with communication that you enjoyed a lot about your job, or if there was anything else about your job that you were really excited about day to day, or you really enjoyed too.
I think the presentation part of my job I do appreciate because I get to be around different people and it helps with your skills as a presenter, as a learner, receiving constructive criticism. Because what I really like is at the end, at least for me, I'll send out a survey about how is my presentation skills, what could I have done better, getting feedback from the people that I work with. So I appreciate that part of the job because I enjoy people. That's really what it is, and it's okay to get constructive criticism and feedback. You're going to need that as you grow in a company, especially being a woman and being in business. There's not a lot of us in senior leadership positions, not a lot of Black women in senior leadership positions. So that's definitely something I aspire and am proud of. So taking my skills to the next level to be able to compete with the best of them is kind of necessary in this line of business. So
Thank you so much for that thorough, super helpful, lovely answer, Salome. I also wanted to ask, now that you know how you've gotten to where you've gotten, if you had any recommendations for our students about how to get where you're at, like any temp jobs or like entry jobs or internships that you recommend, maybe some classes perhaps.
So, I mean, we have introductory positions, and I will say that the finance industry is changing. So, really, definitely having cash handling experience is important. We used to have teller positions, which we're really not doing anymore. The concept that we're kind of moving forward to now is the consultant relationship type role where everyone is able to do everything. So it's not title based, even though we do still have ranking titles. It's just that if a customer comes in, anyone is going to be able to assist them. It's not going to be like, hey, you need to go here and you go there. It's like we want to take personal ownership and accountability when clients walk into the offices. So definitely cash handling experience is going to be important. Anything related to sales, because at the end of the day, we still are a for-profit company. So being able to identify opportunities with customers. So even if it's not someone that has sold something on their own, but their own banking, they understand the banking industry, credit cards, how they function, because we'll train everybody when they are onboarded, but to have some type of finance knowledge would be great. So taking a class in finance. I don't know if people are familiar with Udemy. It's something that we offer for free, but there's definitely a series of courses that people can engage for their own development. And there's a plethora of different classes that they can take. Some are free, some cost if you don't have the sign up through your institution. But definitely taking advantage of some of the things that are out there. YouTube, you'd be amazed about how many things you can find out there on finance. And also never apply to a company that you don't know anything about. That's one of the questions I always ask in an interview. Tell me what you know about US Bank. Why did you select US Bank as a place to apply? And some people are, say, oh, it's just a job. But we're really looking for people, and most places are looking for people who want to grow with the company. So if you don't have that perspective on the organization you're applying for, that also isn't going to be helpful in your interview.
Thank you so much, Salome, for all your helpful advice and knowledge. And during this interview, we've spoken about, what you did in college and what you do at your job and what skills that are important to have and what our students should do in order to get where you're at. But I wanted to ask, if you could do it all over, right?
Mm-hmm.
But still end up where you're at, what would you have done differently?
Honestly, I don't know that I would have changed any of it. I know that's maybe a cliche answer, the easy way out, but I learned a lot on the way through this journey, and I think that you take ownership of the things that you maybe look back on and say, maybe I shouldn't have done it that way. But hindsight's 2020. You look back on the situation, you're like, maybe I could have done it differently. But I will say I ended up where I'm supposed to be. Because right now I'm currently in a PhD program for in business, so with the focus on strategic leadership. So I'm trying to do things that will keep me engaged, and as I grow with the company is growing with me. I will say that I was lucky enough to find an organization that they pay, so they do tuition reimbursement. So as long as what you're doing is relevant to the job, they want to invest in you because you're investing in them. So I think that you looking at your organization and not picking a job just because it's a job, but picking the job and looking at the ethics of the company and do they fit and work with yours. Granted, there was some trial and error along the way, but I don't know that I would have changed any of that because they challenged me in certain ways. And like I said, I was an accidental banker. I had no intention of staying with US Bank, but I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to be somewhere where I was helping people. And little did I realize that being in finance, you're helping a lot of people's dreams come true. Their first credit card, a home loan, a bunch of different things, their first checking account. You're a part of a process with people. And sometimes you end up being like a therapist to them as you're interacting with customers. And that still held true for me because as I continued through the bank, I was helping people, but now I was helping people develop in the way that I had developed and the things that I had learned. So I don't think that I would change it. Maybe in certain situations I might not would have said certain things or, but that's all growing. I started the bank when I was 19. So, there's been a lot of growth and development, and here I am. So,
19?
yeah, I started when I was 19 at the bank.
Wow, that
Yeah,
is young.
yeah,
We didn't even talk about that, but
yeah.
oh my gosh. So, lightning round, bonus question. Um, do you have any skills that students can be working on right now?
I think it's important to be able to talk to your clients and know they can relate to you, especially with language. So I think that whole communication aspect definitely has come full circle. So I also am Ghanaian, so I know a little bit of Ghanaian. So depending, certain conversational things I'm better at, but obviously English. But I think that in the environment that we're in and where we live and where my offices are, it's really important that I'm able to communicate with clients and with customers and sometimes the staff, because that's their native language. They feel more confident and comfortable speaking that, which is fine. So I think that being able to speak the language of someone else is really important.
So, main takeaway, communication is key, being yourself is key, and wanting to improve is key.
You did awesome. I would totally agree with all three of those things.
Fantastic. I mean, I'm sure that's going to be super duper helpful for our students to know.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Salome, for one, getting up early, two, answering these questions thoroughly and thoughtfully. Um, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And I'm sure that this interview is going to help a lot of people.
Thank you so much.